Welcome to Face to Face. I am Upendra Mishra and our guest today is Sneh Jaisingh. She will be a speaker at Health Expo on March 10th and we are going to talk about emotional eating. Sneh, welcome to our studio.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
We are looking forward to listening to you at Health Expo.
I'm excited too.
Sure. So emotional eating, that's, I think it's a very exciting topic, something very new.
Right.
And so let us start, what is emotional eating?
So that's a very great question. Food, as we all know, the prime job of food is to give us fuel and nutrition. But a lot of times food also can give us a lot of things like compensate with our emotional triggers. You sometimes tend to eat food because you are upset, because you are anxious, because you are depressed, you're missing a dear one. So moments when you feel those emotional bouts and you eat during those times just to numb those emotions is something what we call as emotional eating.
So for example, what about the drinking too? I think it can be related with like sometimes people are very happy, they want to celebrate, they open a bottle of wine or beer.
Yeah,
that's also similar pattern or that's a different?
So in general what we see is there are four things that people tend to when they go through these emotional bouts. One is any kind of addiction. So food is one, alcohol, drugs that we talk about, and even sex. These are the four things that are very commonly used to respond to those emotional triggers. Food being one of the most common one because it's readily available and you can always indulge into that.
And what are some of the, like, of course, the major impacts are on the obesity and the weight gain.
Right.
Apart from that, what are the other side bad effects of overeating?
So it's different. Overeating and emotional eating, they are kind of.
So what is the difference? I'm glad you mentioned that.
Right.
Yes.
So
Okay.
emotional eating can just be that there was a heated argument today at work and I really wanted to respond back in some different way, but I'm a person who does not like to do much confrontation. So I go home and I compensate that by probably eating a slice of extra pizza or just having a glass of wine, as we were talking about. So that does not mean that we are overeating. It could just be the choice of food that we are picking. When I'm angry, I might just want to eat something spicy or just to numb my emotion. Overeating is a part of that because we don't know when to stop. A lot of times what happens is that the choice of food that we make when we are going through this emotional eating bout is we tend to go for something that is fried, that is sweet, they are very calorie dense, and they do tend to be addictive in nature. So if you go for 2 gulab jamuns, you would want to go for the third one. Like,
Sure.
It's just the addictive nature of it. And that is what we could say as overeating.
Sure. Now, off the camera, when we were talking, you mentioned about some symptoms of emotional eating.
Right.
Now, in a way, all of us are emotional eaters in certain ways.
Right.
But when we cross the boundary, what are the things we should really watch out for?
So firstly, to watch out, that actually is a very good question. And a lot of times in my practice, I see that it takes a long time to even realize that I'm an emotional eater. There are few signs that you could watch. When I'm eating this food, what happens is when you are in the mode of emotional eating, the urges are very sudden. Like here I'm writing an article or doing my work and suddenly I have this craving that I want to eat something sweet right now. So you would want to go and hit that vending machine. At work you are bored or you're too stressed out, you have this meeting coming up. So these are all triggers, and the first sign to catch it is that you will have that instinct of going in eating something right now, versus when you are hungry. When you're naturally hungry, you would have a little, that sensation in your stomach which starts sending signals that I'm hungry, that growling, sound, and you can wait. You can tell yourself that, okay, let me finish this article and then I'll go and eat my lunch. So there is a difference between, like, you have this tantrumatic kid inside you who wants, I want to eat this right now versus I want to eat this, I can wait and let me finish this work and eat later. So if you can catch that moment, So there are techniques that we train.
So what are the
clients.
techniques? That's another.
So that we will be talking more about it at the expo, as I was
Sure.
telling you.
But give our some sort of a
So
preview.
basically, these are all mindfulness techniques that you see. Human mind is we are just creatures of habit. We are so programmed to act in certain way, right? Ever since we were a kid, I remember that growing up, we would cry or something, and our parents would just say, "Hey, let me give you a chocolate," just to calm you down.
Sure.
So this is how we have programmed ourselves, that we somewhere have connected food to compensate for an emotion. Food is something that we have a control on. A lot of things are out of our control, and we human beings have certain desires, and we want an outcome the way we want it. So, for example, I want to. Today, when I was driving to come here to the office, there was a lot of traffic, and I wish I would reach at certain time, and I was not able to. So it was making me very anxious. These are the things that you can't control. So what you do is you compensate that with food. So that is how our mind is. So you need to retrain your mind to work into, okay, how can I practice mindfulness techniques? So there are a few mindfulness techniques. First of all, the technique is to realize that I have been doing this. I have been eating out of my emotional triggers. First step is that. And then there are different techniques on how you can redirect these emotions and channelize it in a way that you can find something that is not food to balance those emotions.
I think the survey which we did with you,
Right.
and there was one question asking people about what are the stress management techniques you
Correct.
use,
Right.
and there were some wonderful answers there about
Right.
people talking about meditation,
Correct. Correct.
awareness,
Right.
and music and dance and things like that. So, what do you think those type of skills or techniques can work?
Absolutely. So one thing that works is just practicing mindfulness. It could be anything. A lot of people like to start their day right. You just say you set the foot right. So a lot of people prefer to do some exercise routine, creating that habit of practicing mindfulness whenever you can. Yoga, meditation is great. You could just do listening to nice music, something that uplifts you. A lot of times we tell our clients that when you have these urges, like especially when you're at work and that 3 p.m. urge of having something salty or sweet, just changing the scenario or the environment, going for a walk, or just talking to a coworker about it, and it just changes that. So it's just programming, realizing that, okay, first asking that question to yourself, am I really hungry? Do I really need this? Why do I need this? What is it that I am looking for when I'm looking for this at that candy bar? These are the questions. So you program yourself and then you channelize that energy. A lot of times we see clients, they say that the maximum emotional eating happens at dinner time. You come home, you're already tired, you're stressed out, and you see food set up on the table and you want to just binge on the food. Again, being aware of that. Not just directly coming to the dining table, just taking 5 minutes to yourself.
So what you were saying, that the awareness, I think, the key fundamental things to really start this.
Yeah.
So once you become aware, then you
being
can.
aware and also slowing down, Upendraji. I think we are all just trying to, run a race for somehow. We're just pacing our life so much that we just don't take a break and just look at the things around us or appreciate that. Even when we're eating our food. Food is supposed to give us that nourishment and that energy. But of late what has happened is that we don't appreciate what we are eating. It's a sad thing, right?
So let's talk about, we talked about the symptoms.
Right.
What are some of the most crazy emotional foods we have in our Indian or South Asian diet?
So can I say this, I have seen that, and again, it could just be a very generalized statement, but I work a lot with South Asian clients, and most of us are emotional eaters because that's how we've been programmed growing up. We have been told that you're not supposed to cry loudly, you're not supposed to be doing this, the way we've been trained. So we've always looked at food to compensate that emotion, so we suppress that, a lot of emotions. So common things that I see in my practice that my clients tell me is that they like to eat something fried, spicy fried, something very sweet, that they like to indulge into. So namkeen is one thing that they always say, like, with chai, they want to have a lot of namkeen food. And so it's a typical pattern. I cannot just pinpoint one food per se, but spicy fried is one on top for South Asians. And men, they like to eat crunchy, salty food.
Well, I like that too.
You do too?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I see that. And women, usually, this is again just a pattern. I see that women tend to eat more of spicy food, like really, really spicy. And you see that when in my practice, when we talk to these clients very closely, there's a lot of emotions that is coming through suppression.
What about sweets?
Sweets, yeah.
They fall in the same category? Or?
Sweets is the first taste that we human beings got associated with. We were born and we were introduced with milk. So sweet is something that gives us the biggest comfort. So whenever you are looking for an emotional comfort, you would want to tend to go towards something sweet. You talk to a lot of us South Asians, we want to end our food with a little bit of sweet. That's how we grew up. That comfort, that feeling that it tells me I'm happy, I'm satisfied. It's just numbing that feeling. So I grew up in a Gujarati household. So I know my grandfather would want to eat something sweet after his meals. He would eat jaggery. If nothing was just jaggery. So it is again that connection of happiness, that warmth, that comfort that we look into. Here I see that a lot of Indian households, they would have, unfortunately, because we don't have the luxury or domestic help as much to cook fresh things, they tend to eat a lot of frozen sweets, mithais, like mainly gulab jamun I hear a lot, or some peda or kaju katri or whatever. And it's just become a practice. And that again is another chapter or topic to talk about, the quality of food that you are giving to your body, even when you are emotionally eating.
Now, also, where you eat.
Right.
So sometimes you have no problem eating with everybody, whatever you want to eat. And sometimes people just sneak in somewhere and,
Yes.
So tell how that relates with emotional eating.
So that was one of our survey questions, right?
Questions,
and it was great, the feedback that we've got, a lot of people. So what if, again, we are so programmed to behave in a certain way in a society. Don't sit like that, don't talk like that, don't eat like that. So often what happens is you tend to portray yourself very different when you are in a society because you're more conscious of your surrounding, what's going on. And when you are at home or when you're by yourself, you feel like, oh, I can just let myself loose and I can just eat whatever I can. So it was very interesting to see the survey results,
Also, there was another question, interesting question was that you have maintained your discipline for the whole week.
Yes.
And come Friday and everything fall apart. So.
Yes, it's the same thing that, throughout the week, we are all living a lifestyle. Sometimes it's like a mundane lifestyle. And you program yourself by saying, oh, by Friday evening, I can just let loose, I can just relax. So that could translate in a lot of different ways. A lot of people say, I drink only on Friday evening, or Saturday is one day that I give myself permission to drink. So it's basically just letting yourself be, or just that freedom, that temporary feeling that you give your mind, saying that I deserve it. Like I have few clients who would say, come on, I work hard all week, I'm disciplined with my diet, you have to let me eat one scoop of ice cream. Like, they would literally bargain with you. So the whole feeling behind that again is coming from, I have to compensate somewhere, I have to eat this. But if you tell them that you can eat ice cream every day, then they would not want to eat it.
Sure, yeah. Now, I have one totally opposite problem of this because, again, we're talking off the camera.
Right.
And, when I get stressed out or I'm going through an issue, my body completely shuts down. And I don't want to eat. I'm not hungry anymore.
Right.
It just totally stops there.
Correct.
So how it is different from, not eating emotionally or something, or is there any study or something on that aspect, or it depends on people to
Absolutely, you said that right. Every human being is different. The way we cope with a certain situation is different. And the way we have been trained, the way we grew up, the way we've been raised, it all impacts us. So we are just basically a programmed machine, right? So maybe for you, this is how you are coping with stress, that you just don't feel like eating anything at that moment and you're completely engrossed. For someone else, it is basically, so even in your case, you are in an extreme. In real world, you would be eating your lunch or dinner and, living your life the way you usually do. But then here comes a big stress or a trigger and you completely shut down. So it's again, that's your body's way of compensating with that stress.
Excellent.
That's how
Good,
your
yeah.
body is managing that or coping with that stress. But it could be somebody else in your place, and when they are stressed, they will be like, bring in whatever food you can, and they would want to eat Chinese food and pizza. They would not say, I want to eat dal chawal or something simple. They want something that, so we are always looking a way to compensate or to cope up with anything that just messes up with that equilibrium.
Now, we'll listen more about it at the Health Expo during your presentations, and I think we're really excited, looking forward to that. And but before I let you go, I have one question for you regarding the emotional eating along the various age groups. So how is emotional eating for children or adults or older people? Or is there any difference, or the pattern is very similar?
So emotional eating is the same. How they react to that is a little different. In my practice, what I see is that with younger generation, till the time you're not aware of this practice that you're following, like, or you were eating 6 slices of pizza and you don't realize that. But one day that, that switch, you realize, oh my God, I have been eating so much, I'm overeating because I'm, for XYZ emotional reason. It is just an overnight change. It's very easy for younger generation to make that switch and say, okay, I realize I've been doing this and this is what I need to do. Versus the older you get, we get a little rigid with our lifestyle, with our things. So I see that is the biggest difference. The other thing that what I see is that there are different stages through emotional eating, right? So let's say that trigger, there's some trigger, emotional trigger that happened. So to react to that trigger, for me, it could be that I want to eat a scoop of ice cream. For that same person, same reaction, it could be something else. It could be spicy Doritos or something, chips or something like that. But the reaction is the same. I am using food to compensate to that emotional trigger. So when I eat that, or when I just cave into that emotion, the next step is that I get a high. I had that sugar. It numbed me. That sugar gave me that high, and it gives me a feeling of happiness. It gives me a feeling of being in control again. For kids, I see my teacher gave me so much homework, or my mom is asking me to clean the room. I don't want to do it, and I can't say no to my dad or my mom. And then that moment you eat something, you feel I'm in control. So they would eat a candy bar, or they'll eat a bag of chips. And that for that moment they feel, oh, life is good. I have everything in my control. So you go through that high. That high makes you feel good, and it's the same high as doing drugs or drinking alcohol. At that moment, it just numbs those emotions, that sensation, and it makes you feel good about it. And then when that high, that moment, it's like a hangover, it just drops back, and then comes the next phase where you feel guilty. You feel really bad about that choice that you made. So what do you do at that moment?
Actually, this was another question in that in our survey as well. That whether you overcompensate after that, or exercise and all those things. And a lot of people said they do that, actually.
They do, because it's just a normal human tendency, right? That's what we tend to. So I did something, I'm feeling guilty, so I want to compensate for that feeling. So either I will go and work out extra, or I'll do crash dieting, or the other thing people can do is they just beat themselves up. That is where I worry more. That, the whole self-esteem just dooms, like, I'm always like that. I don't know why I can't even control. I just get crazy. I just see that extra slice of pizza and I just eat that. I will never be successful in my life. It is so interesting that, we just feel like it's just food or emotional eating, but that impacts overall, because everything is connected.
No, you just mentioned very interestingly self-esteem.
Right.
So how the self-esteem and the food or emotional eating, they are connected? So
again, that's a very good question. And, that's something that I see a lot with people, because it overall makes you feel that you're not in control. It makes you feel, the more you feel guilty about the choices that you're making, right? Somewhere a lot of times we see that, oh, yeah, in public you might just say, it's okay, I'm just going to have this ice cream. Today is my cheat day. But somewhere inside, there is a little voice that tells you, why are you doing this? You know it's not good for you and you're doing it. So you are already feeling bad about your choices.
Sure.
It does sabotage your self-confidence, your self-esteem somewhere, because obviously when you are indulging into food more than what your body really needs, the side effects we already know: overweight, feeling of discomfort. For some people it could even lead to some chronic health issues. So you are going to feel upset about that because you know you can control it and you are still not doing it. And that overall impacts your, just the way you present yourself, the way you just live your life. It just impacts a lot on that.
Excellent. Well, Sneh, thank you very much for your time.
My
It was a
pleasure.
pleasure talking
Thank
to you,
you so much.
and looking forward to on March 10th.
Yes, thank you so much for opening this platform, because emotional eating is something which is very much important to just at least open this chapter. Open
Absolutely.
the
I think this is
discussion.
also something new which is happening, and
yes, it
people
is.
are paying more and more attention now, and
Yeah,
I think it's a very
yeah.
critical to
Right,
to
yeah.
that.
So what we're planning to do again at the expo, what we were talking about, is that we just want to open this platform for people to just come out and talk about, how they cope with their emotions. What are the strategies that they could
I think it would be
do.
interesting to listen to them as well at
Listen
the
to
work.
them
Sure.
more, actually,
Sure.
because now that you are getting more aware, it will be interesting
Sure.
to see how it goes, and I'm quite excited for the
No,
expo.
we are all excited. Excellent. Thank you very much
Thank
again.
you.
Thanks
Thank you
again
for having me.